I never watched Nintendo Directs to find out about upcoming horror games. I mainly watched them to find out whether or not I'll be disappointed by the lack of Fatal Frame on the Switch. Please port this. It is the perfect game for the Switch. Pokemon Snap but ghosts, Japanese people and gyro controls. It is an obviously good idea. But for some reason, I had a feeling about this Nintendo Direct. A deep, dark feeling. One that I usually suppress because it's not socially acceptable to explore it. The screams. The sweet screams. So I decided to tune in with the belief that Nintendo would show off some horror games. And to my surprise, they actually did. And they showed off some pretty big games too. This is the point of the video where I start talking about the games in question, so here we go. In a bit of weird news, Doom 64 is coming to the Switch. If you couldn't guess, the 64 meant that this game was originally released on the Panasonic 3DO and was developed and published by Midway Games and released in my country on December 2nd, 1997. And for 22 long years, it has remained on that console. According to Wikipedia, the greatest and most accurate source of all things Doom 64, the game takes place after the events of Doom 2. What happened at the end of Doom 2? Well, I've got no idea, but I reviewed Doom 3, so you should check that out. I knew nothing about this game, so I thought I would look it up like a good YouTuber and share some details about it. Doom 64 aimed to bring all the carnage and bloodshed that Doom was known for onto Nintendo's little console that could. It had 32 exclusive levels, some unique monsters and new weapons. But because it was on a cartridge, they had to remove split-screen multiplayer, mainly because the developer said the game's frame rate shat itself anytime someone tried to play that, so yeah, it makes sense. Some weapons are also altered to make them feel more beefy, which sounds like a cool addition. Doom 64 offered enough new content while changing old features to keep them fresh and engaging. The game was only available by purchasing the original or downloading a mod of the game on PC, so the fact Bethesda and Nintendo are bringing this old and somewhat forgotten entry in the series onto new hardware is pretty damn cool. Doom 64 is scheduled for release on November 22nd. It isn't the game for me, but I'm glad Doom fans get to experience it without any hassle. Hopefully you don't have to sign into Bethesda Net to play this one. Ah yes, Devil May Cry 2, the best game in the franchise. Capcom has been on a roll recently. They've released loads of Resident Evil games onto the Switch, and it seems like they are continuing that trend with Devil May Cry. But we knew we would eventually get to this point. DMC 1 has been on the console for some time now, and if they plan to release all of the games, DMC 2 was bound to get there. It is of popular opinion that DMC 2 was the worst in the franchise. The game was criticized for being too easy, dumbed down, including slow gameplay, bland graphics, and it was too short. I think I played DMC 2 back in the day, but I have no idea, and that is a testament to how forgettable this game was for many people. But there is some good news about DMC 2 being released on the Switch. That news is the next game to be released is DMC 3, which is the best entry in the franchise, and I want to kiss Dante and his pretty boy lips. Hey, they are porting Vampire to the Switch. That's cool. I haven't played it, but I'm pretty sure some 30-year-old goth that shops at Hot Topic is pretty stoked they'll be able to experience a life they wish they could live, while on a train to their office job where nobody likes them and Sandra invited everyone but them to a farewell party. I always wanted to play this game because I heard some good things about it, but I'm not going to get it on the Switch. Moving on. Deadly Premonition. This one came completely out of nowhere. The cult classic survival horror game is out right now on the Switch. Like, right now. I have heard so many people praise the game and it is regarded as a cult classic. It was clearly influenced by Twin Peaks and its plot is the most obvious aspect of that. You play as Detective Francis York Morgan, who loves coffee and has an imaginary friend. He goes to a small town to investigate a killer, you meet quirky characters and work with police to solve the mystery. If you have watched Twin Peaks, you can tell just from this bare bones summary of the story that the developers may have watched an episode or two. And if you haven't watched Twin Peaks, what the fuck is wrong with you? But Deadly Premonition is also well known for being a bit of a mess. The gameplay is notoriously janky and the visuals and sounds feel like a PlayStation 2 game, and honestly that's because it originally was going to be. But this only adds to the charm, and I would definitely download and play the game if the port was any good, or at least as good as a port of Deadly Premonition can be, but several people have pointed out the Switch version is more of a mess than the original release. Whitney, who is someone I know that is basically the Deadly Premonition expert, she has a whole YouTube series that is an in-depth playthrough of the game and you should check it out. I'll leave it in the description at the end and the end of this video. But she has stated that the Switch port has a lot of sound issues. Audio will cut out consistently and can only be fixed by rebooting the game. Changing the controls is not reflected in the on-screen prompts. There are several graphical issues and the already terrible vehicle controls are actually worse than the original. Even the original developer of the game, Swery, tweeted about the terrible port. So if you want this game, maybe just wait until all these issues are patched. And here is another massive surprise. Deadly Premonition 2: A Blessing in Disguise is coming out in 2020, which is fucking insane. There is not too much information about the sequel, except the player will control FBI agent Aaliyah Davis, I think that's her name, and Francis York Morgan, who are investigating a string of murders in the small town of Le Carre in New Orleans. It has been 9 years since the original game came out, and once I actually finish that game, I am going to play the shit out of the sequel. And since it is on the Switch, I can play it while I'm shitting, so everything just works out. And that's it. To be honest, I was pretty impressed by how many horror games are coming to the Switch, and the fact that a long-awaited sequel to a cult classic was also heading for the little console is fucking awesome. I have always touted the Switch being an amazing console for horror games, and I'm glad Nintendo seems to think the same way. And a little side note, since Konami is focusing on games again because gambling is getting cracked down on in Japan, and that is transparent as fuck, I hope to see Silent Hill games come to the Switch at some point soon. But just port them please, none of this HD crap. And that's my roundup for the horror games at this Nintendo Direct. Let me know about any games you are excited for, and what games you want to come to the Switch. And I will see you next time games are announced at a thing about games.